Hello and welcome. We are doing our life sciences module number 5, biology. And today we're going to do a small flip classroom for chapter number 20, which says history of the life on earth. Now, this is very interesting and very short chapter. So I hope we can, talk about a lot of evidences from the past, the way we've arrived to today's earth. Let's quickly begin with one of the most important aspects of what we call the amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and this was the reason for the origin of life on Earth. So, when, where, how did the life happen? It started as a simple concept of a primordial soup. Primordial soup, basically, your soup. What are the ingredients of a soup? Essentially, this is suddenly every element, every required nutrient that is for building up the life was present in around 4 to 3.7 billion years ago. Now, this was an experiment done by Oparin and Hardy, where they actually tried to prove and create this entire situation where the life could evolve. And this is very popular, how the life evolved in the first part of the world. It's also something very interesting I want to talk to you about is called the Goldilock conditions. The soup, remember the story of Goldilock and the three bears? If you don't, you can Google it, but it is not point here. The point is Earth was the Goldilock planet, neither too hot nor too cold. And that is when the origin of life happened. Life happened on Earth. Imagine if we've been too close to the sun. We would have had been like Mars, completely. Mars actually is very cold. Then it's Venus, still very, very hot Venus. Or further away, like Jupiter or Saturn, will be extremely cold. In fact, Earth has something what we call the ozone layer. Interestingly, ozone layer protects the Earth from the harmful UV rays or the ultraviolet rays of the sun. So essentially, what we are looking at is we're looking at a simple idea how the life originated. Quickly, I'll also go to your InText questions, which says, when did the Earth come into existence? Well, it is 5 billion years ago. Small questions. And why life did not originate on the primitive Earth? Because primitive Earth was filled with dangerous gases. Among them, the most dangerous of them was nitrogen. Remember, nitrogen with the atomic number of 7 is an inert and invisible gas that almost made up of 78% of the air we breathe. And this was the gas that was present during the time when the primordial soup started. And then the lesser the quantity of this gas, the more the amino acids started forming and life started happening. Yay, first life, eukaryotic cell, that is a single unicellular organism was formed. It may be the smallest cell, and we'll learn about this cell as we go ahead, but this formed the origin of life on Earth. This period is called the Cambrian period. Remember the word Cambrian period? This is a question that is often asked in examination. It's a part of the Paleozoic era. Remember, dinosaurs will come in Jurassic era. Cambrian is where the intense birth of life happened, including a lot of animals we know today. So the origin of horses today, the origin of whales today, reptiles, birds, all of this happened in the Cambrian period. And that is when our entire life started happening. What's a fossil? So a group of scientists who are called paleontologists who dig up a lot of remains of plants and animals started digging up these fossils, essentially a bone, a skeleton, a tooth. And out of which they created an entire story which says how did the life evolve, which was the earliest life, when did the birds lose their tail and started developing wings. A lot of speculation also comes in, and then they one structure was emerging, and this first structure that came was a human-like ape. The pre-Neanderthal man, Homo erectus. We are called Homo erectus, and I'll talk to you about these small things. And this one is called Lucy. There's a movie also called Lucy. The first human-like ape is called Lucy, and the credit of it goes to the English physicist. Everyone knows his name, Charles Darwin. Usually questions are around Charles Darwin are very interesting. So what is a entire book that Charles Darwin wrote? It's called The Origin of Species. And Darwin, in his ship, the HMS Beagle, he went on a voyage, and which is where he wrote the book. He saw some very, very strange animals. Among them are the Galapagos Island. the Galapagos Island tortoise, and finches, the birds I'll talk about. And he came up with 4 very interesting observations in this. Observation number 1, all organisms tend to produce more offspring that can survive. Survival of the fittest, right? So, the example, a tortoise will lay eggs and the strongest eggs will only hatch. Or a tiger or cougar will give birth and the weaker ones will be eaten up, but the younger, stronger one will survive. Same thing goes for zebras and any animal in the world. That's Darwin's assumption number 1 or observation number 1. Number 2, population numbers tend to remain fairly constant over long period of time. So the amount of deers in the ecosystem or the predators in the ecosystem or the frogs in the ecosystem will remain constant. That's observation number 2. Organisms also in a species show wide variation in characteristics. For example, the horse species around the world, right? So they all equine, all horse species, but the Mongolian horses are very different. They are hardy, they are shorter than the Arabian stallion, which are very swift, which are very fast, to, let's say, the Indian Kathiawari horses, which are sturdy. So there is variation within the species. And finally, he also said some of the variation are inherited and passed on to the next generation. So now what happens, it helps the organism to survive disease, to survive, the competition, and they become better and better. This is called survival of the fittest. You must be able to explain this particular slide in your own way. I give a lot of examples. These are questions that are usually they appear about how can camel adopt, and we'll talk about these in further chapters. But this is a very interesting concept of Darwin, and Darwin's 2 major contribution is natural selection and his theory of evolution that we'll just in the next slide will talk about. So fittest animal will survive and reproduce is natural selection. He studied a lot of finches. These are the birds and finches, the Galapagos Island, and he realized there are variation within the species. For example, if you look at them, the colors are different, the beak sizes are different. So all of these, depending on the food availability, the animal adopted itself. And yes, although it's very, very controversial, very, very popular, the theory of evolution for human being. It started with the first ape-like creature, and as we started erecting ourselves and started up, we came to the concept of Homo sapien. We are Homo erectus before that. We are Australopithecus, and these are names you will have to remember. And that is where Lucy comes in, the first ape-like man. Then we have Homo, Neanderthal man, Australopithecus, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, and Homo sapien that we are today. So this is, in short, one of the easiest chapter. Remember, the whole idea of Australopithecus came from 1.5 to 2 million years ago. And this is where our ancestors we share is ape-like creature. Hope you enjoyed this particular session. Goodbye, good luck. Let's enjoy our biology and let's make it count with all the exam questions. Best of luck.